There's a fish on sushi menus all over the world. You've probably eaten it. Grilled, glazed, served on rice, and it might be the strangest animal you'll ever put in your mouth. Because no scientist has ever watched it breed. We can't raise it on a farm. We've never even found its eggs. And the only way to get it has quietly become one of the biggest wildlife crimes on Earth. This is the eel. And how it ends up on your plate is a story stranger than any fish has a right to be. Start with the impossible part. The eel you eat as unagi begins its life far out in the open Atlantic, most likely the Sargasso Sea, a vast weed-choked stretch of ocean with no shores and no bottom you can see. It hatches there as something that barely looks like a fish at all, a tiny, clear, leaf-shaped larva, thin enough to see straight through. Then it begins one of the longest journeys in the animal world. Riding the ocean currents, it drifts thousands of miles toward the coasts of Europe, a trip that can take years. And as it travels, it transforms. First into a glass eel, finger-length, see-through, with a beating heart you can watch through its skin. Then, in the rivers, into a yellow eel, where it can live for a decade or more. And finally, one autumn night, into a silver eel. Its eyes swelling, its gut shutting down. Its whole body rebuilt for one last trip. Along the way, it does things no ordinary fish can. It breathes through its skin, climbs wet rock, and even wriggles across damp land to reach a new pond. Some live for decades, a few in captivity for more than half a century. Because the eel breeds only once. It swims all the way back across the Atlantic to where it was born, spawns, and dies. A single, secret act at the very end of a very long life. And that act has never been seen, not once, which means we cannot farm it. Every attempt to raise it from egg to adult at any scale that matters has failed. So every eel served in every restaurant on Earth started as a wild baby, scooped out of a river. And that mystery, where do eels come from, has driven people a little mad for over 2,000 years. Here's the problem. Catch an eel in a river, cut it open, and you find nothing. No eggs, no sperm, no clear way to tell male from female. So for most of human history, people simply made things up. Aristotle, in ancient Greece, decided eels weren't born at all, that they sprang spontaneously from mud and rainwater. That idea was taken seriously for 2,000 years. The Roman writer Pliny thought new eels grew from old eels rubbing against rocks. Others blamed morning dew or the hairs of horses fallen into the water. It got stranger. At one famous Italian eel fishery, a scientist recorded more than 150 million eels caught and cleaned over the years, and not one was ever found carrying eggs. In 1876, the job of cracking it fell to an unlikely young man. A 19-year-old medical student was sent to a research station on the Italian coast and told to dissect eels until he found the male organs no one had ever seen. He cut open more than 400 of them. He found nothing, gave up in frustration and walked away from biology for good. His name was Sigmund Freud, and you can decide for yourself whether a summer spent failing to find an eel's reproductive organs had anything to do with where his mind went next.
Right. Here is the liver, the green, right? And then right where it's lighter green, that's the intestine.
Figure that out. This was.
There's the brain over here.
That's the heart.
The heart?
The heart.
Oh, the heart.
The eel had beaten the man who'd go on to map the human unconscious. And in a way, it's still winning. Because even today, no human being has ever watched two wild eels breed.
You guys know
All
that?
the way around. Yeah.
So why would anyone chase a fish this maddening? For that, you go to Japan. Here, eel, unagi, isn't just food. It's tradition, stretching back centuries. The eel is split, deboned, skewered, and grilled over charcoal. Then brushed again and again with a sweet dark glaze until the fat crackles and the flesh turns soft as butter. The technique is called kabayaki, and a good eel chef can train for years just to master the knife. Even the cut carries history. In Tokyo, the eel is split down the back, then steamed until it's impossibly tender. In Osaka, it's split down the belly and grilled straight over the fire for a crispier bite. Two cities, two philosophies, one fish. And there's a day built around it. On the hottest stretch of summer, tradition says you eat eel for strength, and the restaurants sell out. Whole streets exist for nothing but unagi. It is, by any measure, a national obsession, and not a cheap one. For centuries, Japan caught its own eels. But by the 1990s, its native stocks were collapsing. The Japanese eel is now endangered too. Demand kept climbing. Supply fell off a cliff. So Japan, and the farms feeding it, turned to the rest of the world and found another eel that looked almost identical, swimming up the rivers of Europe by the million. Remember the one rule: you can't farm an eel without a wild baby to start it. So those finger-sized, see-through glass eels became worth a fortune. In peak years, pound for pound, they've been among the most valuable wild creatures you could pull from any river on Earth. A single bucket worth more than a car, and at the height of the market, a single kilo selling for thousands of dollars in Asia. And where there's that kind of money, crime follows. Europe banned the export of its eels in 2010, trying to save the species. It didn't stop the trade. It pushed it underground. Today, smuggling glass eels is described as one of the most lucrative wildlife crimes in the world, worth as much as $3.5 billion in a single peak year. This isn't a few fishermen bending the rules. Investigators describe organized, transnational crime, document fraud, money laundering, criminal networks across Europe and Asia working hand in hand. The babies are scooped from the estuaries of Spain, France, and Portugal at night, kept alive in oxygen-filled bags, packed into suitcases, and flown out through airports by the hundreds of millions, declared as something else or hidden entirely. Investigators have even found legitimate-looking companies quietly supplying the poachers with gear in exchange for the catch, keeping the real bosses at a safe distance. And here's the clever, ugly part. Once those wild babies reach a farm in Asia and grow up, there's no way to look at an adult eel and know it was smuggled. The crime gets washed clean inside the legal seafood trade. A trafficked baby becomes a perfectly legal-looking dinner. In a single recent year, more than 1 million live eels were seized at borders. One European operation alone pulled in over 20 tons of them. And that's only what got caught. Nearly all of it heads to the same place, farms in East Asia, where those wild babies are grown to full size and turned into the unagi on the menu. So here's the part that's about you. The next time you see eel on a sushi menu, anywhere in the world, consider this. More than 99% of all the eel eaten on the planet comes from species that are now endangered. Not rare. Endangered, and it's almost impossible to tell which one is on your plate. Because the trade washes the eel's history away, even the restaurant serving it often has no idea where it really came from. When scientists' DNA tested unagi sold in North America, a large share of it, around 40% in one study, turned out to be the critically endangered European eel, the exact fish that's illegal to trade, the exact fish smuggled out in suitcases. You could be eating it right now and never know. From a high-end sushi counter in Tokyo to jellied eels once sold on the streets of Victorian London to a takeout box in New York, every plate of eel carries the same quiet risk that somewhere up the chain it helped fund the crime. And the eel itself is paying for all of it. The European eel is now critically endangered. Its numbers have fallen by more than 90% since the 1980s. By some counts, down to just a few percent of what they once were. A creature whose lineage goes back tens of millions of years that outlasted whole ice ages is being emptied out of Europe's rivers in a single human lifetime. And it isn't only the fishing. Dams and weirs block the rivers the eels need to climb. Pollution poisons them, and the warming, shifting currents of the Atlantic may be scattering their larvae off course on that long drift home. The same ocean rivers that carry the babies to Europe are changing in ways we're only beginning to understand. The eel is being squeezed from every side at once. There's a flicker of hope.